Folks, it's the Monday edition of College Sports Now. The Field of 68, not the podcast, the actual Field of 68. The bracket hath been released. Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, Ion College basketball fame, gracious enough to give us 60 minutes of his time during this is the busiest week of the year for you. I mean, straight up. I mean, this is a bananas week for you. So how are we? Quick mental health check, buddy.
Oh, mental health is great.
How are you?
Great right now. It's happy to be with you on a Monday. We wanted to get this pod out to our listeners here as quick.
Norlander called me on Monday morning. I was going to give him the space and the grace with which this week commands, but he couldn't help himself. He could not stay away. So here we are.
We are here, and every year without fail, we do the show usually Thursday. We got it done Thursday or whatever. But from Thursday until now, it's a blur. It is an absolute blur. Bracket is out. There's a ton to get to let's dive into it. But I actually have one quick question. I want to look back real quick and not look back at Sunday night. SEC tournament for you. How did it go? As exhausting as anything you've ever done. You're back home. You did the marathon drive. Just how was that whole experience there?
I mean, everyone by Friday night was on fumes because 12 games in 3 days is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not just like a little bit of a change. It's a big change. The basketball was off the charts. I only texted you twice during the entire week. Do you know do you want to recall what I told you via text message?
Florida's the best team.
In America.
And
then I texted you again on Saturday, and I texted you, Florida's the best team in America. That was some...
What did I say?
You said Houston was the best team in America.
I said, might be Houston.
Might be Houston. Now, we're going to find out over the next couple weeks. The basketball was very good. I understand Auburn's the number 1 seed, and rightfully so. Those guys are wobbling going into the NCAA tournament. They played tight against Ole Miss on Friday, won by 5. They were flat against Tennessee and got punished for it. And other than Janai Broome, who is, as advertised, obviously, they have some concerns. And I actually wanted to ask you, we'll get into the bracket. So again, folks, I drove home from Nashville about 3:30 local time, 7 hours straight, got back to my house around midnight Eastern time. I printed a bracket 5 minutes before we fired up the old show here. I watched the selection show. I listened to it in the car, listened to a little bit of the reaction. Norlander, you and your crew with CBS did a great job, as always. But, I mean, you're getting fresh takes from me. Now, you have been put through the ringer. You have been going through a car wash.
I'm going to try and give you some fresh stuff on the show. Don't worry.
But, I obviously am kind of new, and this is going to be a different experience than, where I'm at come Thursday when these games are ready to get going. But the basketball was elite, and I think Florida is... I don't love that St. John's is in their region. That would be a fascinating matchup if the 1 and 2 met in San Francisco. But, I mean, heck, they're going to have their hands full against UConn maybe in the round of 32. But Florida is playing some insane high-level basketball. The thing about this, Norlander, and I know you know this, you know how many NCAA tournament games Todd Golden has won?
0.
Now he's supposed to win 6 in a row? Have you thought about that? Has that crossed your mind at all?
I mentioned that on HQ. The Gators are going to be a trendy pick. They'll still be the 3rd most common pick. Duke will have the most picks by the population. Auburn will be number 2. I think Auburn will get more than Florida. I hope this is, fairyland stuff, but still, I hope that the SEC getting 14 teams in and Texas making it in with room to spare. It was the highest slotted team going to Dayton, meaning it was ahead of Xavier, it was ahead of San Diego State, and ahead of North Carolina, which we can get to in a second. But the SEC has set the record for everyone except LSU and South Carolina from that conference is in. I'd love to believe that Greg Sankey running a conference that gets 14 teams into the field might give him reason to say, you know what? Maybe 68's fine after all. Maybe we have enough access, period. Pipe dream stuff. But if ever there was a tournament to get the commissioner of that league to take his foot off the gas of trying to expand this damn thing, maybe this is the sequence we needed. So if we had to get Texas into the field and keep Indiana, West Virginia, and Boise State out as a result, I'll take that trade. But of course, I'm hoping and dreaming.
Well, who do you have the most beef? Yeah, you are hoping and dreaming because Sankey's gonna push the gas pedal even further to the floor. What do you have the biggest beef with in terms of the snubs? Because I listened briefly, like a little drive by to what you and GP talked about on Sunday night show, and there is a bit of a common denominator in terms of the teams that got snubbed for North Carolina getting in. Tar Heels won 2 games to get to the ACC semis, and if not for a lane violation, might have won 3. God, it would have been so poetic if North Carolina missed out on the NCAA tournament because of a lane violation in a 1-point game against arch rival Duke in the ACC semis without their best player and freshman All-American. Boise State won a couple games in the Mountain West Conference tournament, right? Or they won 2 games, I think. They made it to the championship game of the Mountain West, right? Ohio State went 1 and done. West Virginia went 1 and done. Mountaineers lost to a 16 seed, which is never good, in their tournament. Was that what did it? Like, was that what held those schools back while North Carolina got the green light to enter the field?
West Virginia being left out of the field is the most egregious one. I think every bracket projection on Bracket Matrix had West Virginia in the field, and they didn't get in. Now they're 51 in the net, but San Diego State was 52 and made it into the field. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else as an at-large that was lower than West Virginia in the net specifically that made it into the field. It looks like the answer is no. West Virginia was a team with 6 quad 1 wins. It was 10 and 13 overall, quad 1, quad 2. I actually did think that the Mountaineers were maybe in danger of going to Dayton, and that wasn't talked about a lot. But the low net ranking played a role, unquestionably. Its wins above bubble was 42. That was better than San Diego State. That was better than who else here? I'm just looking at it real quick. Hartzell. It's better than Boise State. Boise State also not in the field at the moment there. I thought it was pretty egregious, the reasoning that they used, saying that Tucker DeVries's injury played a factor in the decision-making. This guy hasn't played since the beginning of December in West Virginia. I think they said it had gone 13 and 10 without him. It had landed a couple of wins. It feels like a hosing. Carolina being in, I get why it happened. North Carolina's resume-based metrics, like in strength of record, it was 38. In wins above bubble, it was 43. Now in KPI, it was down at 54. It actually didn't have a tournament resume on that regard. Its net was 36. They leaned on the quad 2 results, which was odd to me. We don't often hear that. 8-0 in quad 2, 1-12 in quad 1, combined for 9-12 overall, and a quad 3 loss for North Carolina. I just don't think the case is there overall. But I will say, if you're trying to lean on the resume-based metrics, your strength of record, your wins above bubble, North Carolina did fare better than a lot of teams in that conversation in terms of where they're slotted overall. If you want, if you're listening, you want some comparison here. UNC was 43rd in wins above bubble. San Diego State was 44. Texas was 46. Colorado State, which is not a bid, was 47. Indiana 48. Xavier 49. Who else? Boise was 53. You go on down the line. So it was better positioned than a lot of these teams, but I understand the complaints. I interviewed Bubba Cunningham, the chair. I mentioned this on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. I got told the day before that this year I'd be interviewing, because I do the interview at about 7:00 each year of the chair, and that's it. This year was the chair and the vice chair, and then the gears start turning, and I'm like, why would they have me interview 2 people? Oh yeah, that's right, because the chair is at North Carolina, and if North Carolina is in the tournament, he can't. They're not going to put him in the spot where he has to speak to this when he doesn't get to vote for his own team. He has to leave the room every single time North Carolina gets discussed. So, although I had no confirmation, my spidey senses started to tingle. And I thought that Carolina was getting into the field. Yeah.
I mean, you and I were both locked into tournament week. there wasn't much bid thievery, right? Like Memphis handled their business in the American, like VCU handled their business in the A10. These one bid leagues, like things didn't get off the rails like we've seen in years past. And so when that happens, the bubble is going to expand because the teams that have, that have been slotted or, projected to win their conference tournaments did. I mean, it was interesting to hear the committee talk about, we had another bracket if UAB had knocked off Memphis. North Carolina wouldn't have been in the field because we had to make room for UAMFB. But that didn't happen. Blazers fall short to Memphis in the AAC title game. And here we are. So it's interesting. Obviously, there's going to be folks in Morgantown, Norlander. I don't know if you've ever been to Morgantown. There's some conspiracy theorists, some tinfoil hat wearing folks that already live in wild, wonderful West Virginia. There are even more after this, but such is life, right? It's tough. All right, looking at the bracket. By the way, you're an environmentally conscious guy. You drive a Subaru. Do you print a bracket?
Of course I print a bracket, but I actually came up here and I forgot to bring the bracket up. It's downstairs right now, but I got the stuff on my screen, so I'm looking at it. And not only am I looking at it, I'm looking at the official NCAA bracket that has the tip times, announcing teams, the cities involved, all of it. It's the best version of the bracket that's out there. If you want it, I've posted it on Blue Sky and on Twitter. Go find it. There's a link to a downloadable PDF as well. Your boy's looking out for you.
I love that for you. And I will say that on the car ride, it's me and two other dudes. We work in broadcasting. Okay. So this is what we do. I believe you were the guy who broke the tip times, right? Like that's you who kind of shares that first.
That is. Yes, because of who I work for, I am afforded an early look, and then I am given the go ahead, and I am the first one that put the.
Well, that was a point of discussion for us because within our broadcasting with these individual schools, and we don't need to this is inside baseball stuff, but when tip times are announced, you're like, okay, well, normally we have a 30-minute pregame show. This game is supposed to tip at 3:15. What time is that thing really going to tip? Do we really need to go on at 2:45? No, because that 3:15 tip is actually going to be 3:30, maybe 3:45.
You love the nitty-gritty here, Hartzell. There have been adjustments in the TV schedule this year.
Slight ones, though. Slight.
But sometimes 5 minutes will actually wind up mattering. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
Keep this in mind. Do you know how long halftime is for NCAA tournament games?
20.
20. Do you know how much halftime is for every other game throughout
15.
The year? 15. Extra media timeout. These media timeouts are about 4 minutes each. You start adding it up, man. These NCAA tournament games are going to take. I mean, look, we'll see. There is data. There will be data at the end of this. But these NCAA tournament games take forever. 2:20, man. 2:30. So we'll see. But nonetheless, bracket is out. I want to talk about these regions. I want to talk about these matchups. Toughest region in your eyes, Norlander, as you look at this. Who's got the easiest path to San Antonio as a 1? Who's got the toughest? What do you think?
I think the toughest is Florida.
I agree.
Florida is looking at a two-time, potentially in the second round, a two-time national championship coach. It could get in the Sweet 16. A Maryland team that is top 7 or 8 for starting fives in the country, and 25-8 overall. It could get a Memphis team that's beaten a litany of high-end teams this season. It could get Colorado State, which should be able to handle it, but Colorado State, Florida's the hottest team in the country going into the bracket, and Colorado State's the hottest mid-major going into the bracket for the most part. UC San Diego, shouts to them as well. They've got technically the nation's longest winning streak. Bottom half for Florida, you got St. John's. Enough said. Unlikely as it may be that Kansas gets to the Elite Eight, that is still a Hall of Fame coach there with Bill Self. Texas Tech has been a top 10 team in the metrics all season. That team is in this region as a 3. And then you've got a 30-win team in Drake. In fact, you've got 30-win Florida, 30-win Drake, 30-win St. John's, all in the West. That's the toughest region. That's the most interesting region. That is a change of pace, by the way. Hardcore followers of this sport will know that in most seasons, the West region, because there is usually a lack of teams from the West that can get put out there in the 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And so you get more of a hodgepodge. The West is often the weakest, but that's not the case this year. I actually think the West is the toughest region. It has the most bulk to it. Also, it has 4 current or future Hall of Famers minimally coaching in this part of the bracket. So yeah, that to me is the toughest. The easiest, as we record this, we still don't have an update on just how severe or not Grant Nelson's knee injury is. So his availability will affect this. Duke is in the East, and Bama with Grant Nelson is in the East as well as the 2. It feels like Duke has the easiest run. I would say it is Houston, if not for the fact that Houston might get Gonzaga in the second round. And Gonzaga is an 8 seed because of its resume. It is a top 10 team in predictive metrics. So that is a hell of a game waiting the Cougars potentially in the second round. My favorite region is the West. I would go, in terms of just when I look at it, what stuff excites me the most, I would go West 1, South 2, where Auburn's the 1, Michigan State's the 2, Iowa State's the 3, and Texas A&M is the 4. And then I would say Midwest 3, East 4. That would be my regions ranked in terms of most appeal.
Question. Auburn and Florida are on the same side of the bracket. Okay, they're on the left-hand side of the bracket. That's because Florida is the 4th number 1? I'm asking. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay. All right. I'm just, I got asked that question a bunch today, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to talk to somebody who knows. I think the South region, I understand Auburn could potentially be playing Louisville at Rupp Arena, which geographically is not an advantage for the Tigers. But you look at Michigan State, very good team, 2 seed in that region. Iowa State, a 3, banged up. Texas A&M, a 4, that doesn't scare me. I know you lost at Texas A&M. I know that. I know that happened. But if Auburn can figure it out, I'm not scared of anybody in the South until potentially a Michigan State Elite 8 matchup. That's just, and that would be in Atlanta, right? South region is in Atlanta. I mean, that's
Yes.
gonna be Auburn. That building's gonna be packed. Auburn's like an hour and a half from Atlanta. Got to get past Louisville. By the way, when Louisville, this was early in the bracket reveal. When you saw an 8 seed next to Louisville, did you like? I mean, I'm driving, but I'm listening to Mark Zucker read the teams.
Adam Zucker, come on, don't do my guy like that.
Sorry, Adam. Adam Zucker. We can clean that up in post. And I'm like, that's not right. Louisville shouldn't be an 8. They're underseeded, right?
Yes.
Shouldn't be an 8. By the way, Michigan, a 5, underseeded, right?
Terrible job. I mean, atrocious by the committee. Michigan shouldn't be a 5. A 4 I would accept. I actually think they had a case as a 3 after beating Wisconsin. Committee had no interest in actually doing the work and projecting forward. They claimed otherwise. When I asked Bubba Cunningham, he said that Michigan being a 5 was the result that they had accounted for, meaning that they were the highest ranked 5. Still not good enough, folks. Sorry, it's just not. And it makes it even funnier, if you want to call it that, after the fact when this bracket gets released and within 20 minutes, TJ Otzelberger holds a press conference for the local media and says Keyshawn Gilbert's not going to play the rest of the season. So Iowa State gets a 3, even though if the committee knew what the situation was there, there's no shot ISU would have been a 3. I actually think ISU should have been a 4 regardless of Gilbert's status overall. Louisville being an 8, they do get to play in Lexington, which is unfair to Auburn. And, fair, you got to play the games, whatever. But Louisville is at least, I would say 2 seed lines off. Louisville, I thought had a case as a 5. I thought it was going to be a 6. Instead, it gets an 8. Goes against Creighton. That's actually a really awesome 8-9 game. That is going to start the tournament on Thursday. That is a 12:15 Eastern CBS game on Thursday. And so as we, that day, that morning, we get so excited. I will be in Providence that day, and that's a great way to get going. Just an 8-9, Cards and Jays. I love to see it. But yeah, Auburn, it's going to beat the 16 regardless. Alabama State and San Francisco are the 2 worst teams in the field. Winner will play Auburn, and then Auburn will play on Saturday against either Louisville or Creighton. And if it's Louisville, that is, a little more than an hour's drive away into Lexington. So I didn't think that was fair whatsoever. Michigan, UC San Diego. Michigan got screwed in the
Your Tritons. I'm calling them your Tritons because you've been banging on that drum for weeks.
I have them winning. I'm not going to change this. It's actually going to be I don't know if it'll be a super popular pick because Michigan just won the Big Ten tournament, so some folks are probably going to ride that. UC San Diego is 36 in KenPom. This matchup, 5-12. 7 spots separate them. 11 spots total separate these 2 teams in KenPom. It's the Wolverines just didn't get any favors done to them whatsoever. UC San Diego will have the best guard on the floor in this game. They have a real shot to win. They're an incredible defensive team. I can't wait for this game. I think it's going to be incredible. It is the late tip, approximately 10 Eastern on Thursday, TBS. That's going to be coming to you from Denver. So UC San Diego also has the shorter trip by plane to play this game than Michigan. And the other game is Yale against Texas A&M. That's a 7:25 tip on TBS on Thursday out of Denver. A&M can't shoot. Cash Bar Buzz is going up against James Jones, who's done an awesome job at Yale. Yale beat Auburn in the tournament last year. We could have a situation where Michigan, if it beats UC San Diego and Yale beats A&M, Danny Wolf is playing his former team.
Let's
by
go.
the way, so keep that in mind. Wolf's been among the certainly among the 10 best transfers in the country this season, probably top 5 overall. Bottom half of the South, Ole Miss will play the winner of San Diego State, North Carolina. Feels like a lot of people will, and not for bracket purposes, because people don't pick the first 4 for the most part, unless you're gambling on the game, and I get it, millions are going to do that. But in
tens
your bracket,
of millions, hundreds of millions.
Yeah. But no one's actually in their bracket like writing down who's going to win this game. So absent of that, people are going to pick San Diego State, I think, more often than not. The Aztecs went 21-9. I didn't think they should. I'm not surprised they're going to Dayton. I thought they should have been just clear of it, maybe 1 or 2 spots. Isn't the case at all. San Diego State has a top 15 defense. This team beat Houston, folks. They beat Creighton. They won at Boise State. They're a solid team. Offensively, a little bit lacking, but defensively, they can really get it done. They're 46 at Ken Pom. UNC is favored. It's ranked higher, but UNC has a win over UCLA on a neutral site, and that's it. There's no one else this season that Carolina has defeated that is in San Diego State's class. I'll be interested to see, if Carolina really shows up motivated and makes a big statement, or if that's Aztecs all the way. And if we don't get, remember a year ago with Virginia being in the field, everyone was like, why is Virginia in? And then Virginia got absolutely romped, and it was embarrassing. And that wound up being the last game of Tony Bennett's career. Elsewhere in the South, you've got Iowa State Lipscomb. That's in Milwaukee. And then in Cleveland, and these games are Friday. They're the night session. Marquette, New Mexico is a 7:25 on TBS, and then Michigan State Bryant will follow that game in Cleveland. Marquette, New Mexico is awesome because you have Cam Jones against Donovan Dent. I know a lot of folks that listen to the show are plenty familiar with college hoops. Some people might be doing just a check-in now here as we're into March. New Mexico has a player named Donovan Dent who is just incredible, an awesome player. That is an amazing guard matchup overall, and that is my favorite of the 7-10s by far. Like Kansas plays Arkansas. That's 2 Hall of Fame coaches. I'll be there. I'm excited to see it. And I think that game has some weird potential overall. But my favorite matchup is Marquette versus New Mexico. And Marquette not playing in Milwaukee because it's not a super high seed, but it doesn't have to travel that far to get over to Cleveland. So that's the South as we look at it overall. Any big picture takes from you on that part of the bracket?
I just took a peek at the lines, and obviously these are going to get hammered and they'll move around over the next couple of days. But Michigan, UC San Diego.
Can I guess it?
5-12. Yeah, guess the line.
I don't. Yeah, we'll do a little Bill Simmons here. Because I will say Michigan minus. UC San Diego is a highly rated metrics team. I will say UC San Diego is a 3.5 point dog.
2.5.
2.5. Yep, that makes sense. Michigan can't stop turning the ball over. UC San Diego turns people over constantly and has the nation's leading steal man, Hayden Gray. He's averaging like 3.2 steals per game.
I mean, that's crazy. Like, everybody knows about the 5-12s, right? It's the chic, historically most popular upset or one of. But Tritons. Love that. All right, let's go to the East. Top seed Duke. First of all, let's talk about how they got here. Like, ACC tournament, I got to give a little bit of I got to give credit. First of all, I was wrong. I told folks to pull over in their car a couple weeks ago because the ACC was going to be a 3-bid league. Obviously, I was wrong about that. That's gotten a lot of noise because of North Carolina's inclusion, blah, blah, blah. Duke doing what they did without Cooper Flagg, I think, is encouraging for obvious reasons. Like, you know what Cooper Flagg is. You know what he can do. But that is significant, and good on them. Like, Louisville's a good team. They led at halftime in the ACC championship game. Duke rallied and ended up winning by double digits. Like, something to be said for that. Duke is a good team. I look at this region, and it's interesting you mentioned Grant Nelson's injury with Bama. When that happened in real time, Norlander, we're courtside. I didn't notice it. Like, I got the text that he was out with a leg injury, but I didn't see it happen. I just got the impression that, like, Nate Oates is like, hey, man, take it. Like, we don't need you. Like, we're good. They trailed Florida by 2 at halftime, and then the Gators just absolutely pulled away from that thing without Grant Nelson in the game. Are you getting, like, a whiff that could be something more significant than
in
it
all
is?
honesty, like, I mean, I could literally text. I'm going to text Nate Oates right now as we're doing this
Let's
because I
go.
haven't even had. There's just been so much, like, and it's a great thing, but it's one after another, after another, after another, just from TV to podcast to writing to podcast to TV and all that stuff.
By the way, Grant Nelson, I don't know if you caught this because I know you weren't locked into the SEC tournament, Norlander. You were at the Garden. You were shaking hands. You were kissing babies. You were eating New York slices.
New York slice. Although I didn't stay real quick, I did HQ Saturday night because they ultimately made the decision that if Creighton beats St. John's and I'm on site there, like, it just doesn't have as much pull. And so there was much more need for me in the studio, which is totally fine. I love doing studio as well for CBS Sports HQ. But I was a little bit bummed that I was not able to be on site for Patino winning the Big East tournament. It looked like an incredible scene. But I was there that Thursday and obviously all day Friday. But yeah, Saturday just took in all the championship games and the semifinals across the sport.
Well, Grant Nelson had another one of those poster moments in
saw
Nashville.
that, yeah.
Like, that dude, he's fun, man. He's fun. Like, I think Bama's still a dangerous team. Like, obviously you need a healthy Grant Nelson. That'd be nice to have. But in terms of like a healthy Alabama taking on a healthy Duke, I think the Tide can absolutely hang with the Blue Devils. Given the positionless basketball that those guys are playing, like, their bigs can step out and they're deeper than Duke. Most teams are. I think Alabama could absolutely give Duke a problem in a regional final. But obviously you need a healthy Grant Nelson. So let us know if you get a reply from Nate Oates here in the next half hour or so. Duke's path, first of all, you're looking at like Alabama the 2, Wisconsin the 3, Arizona the 4. Oregon, Arizona in the round of 32 would be apropos for obvious reasons. Oregon, I don't think, has ever lost a first-round NCAA tournament game under Dana Altman. That's significant. They get the Flames of Liberty. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt, interesting game. Styles make fights. Vanderbilt went one and done in Nashville. I mean, they lost to Texas. I kind of got word before that game that they were a little gassed, frankly, and I don't think it was a surprise for Vanderbilt folks to see them lose to Texas. But BYU, VCU is going to be a fun game. Akron's a sneaky, dangerous team, and they're playing an Arizona team. I want to ask you this, Norlander. I think Tommy Lloyd's got a lot of pressure on him at Arizona. I think there's other coaches like that who like of like big name coaches, big name programs. Who's got the most pressure on him this year?
All right, big picture in the tournament. I'm scanning here. Who's got the most pressure? I'll try and give you a top 3. I'll try and give you.
Shire have a lot of pressure on him.
There is. I don't know if would be top 3 for pressure. There's expectations. I think there's a difference there. And, a lot of these coaches don't have, the most pressure is, I guess, Rodney Terry, although maybe there's not. Like, that job is expected to open. Like,
regardless.
It's not regardless, but, I mean, I would be stunned if it doesn't open if Texas doesn't make the second weekend. I'd be stunned. So I don't even know if there's pressure there like that. I think a lot of people kind of understand what the situation is. I'm looking through this right now, Hartzell. I would say pressure.
Like, I think there's pressure at Florida for Todd Golden.
Yeah, but there's not.
Not because he's in danger. It's just like, hey, man, you got to do it. You got to do it. Now you got to do it.
I'd say there's pressure on Rick Barnes. Just can you get it done? You know what? I will say Shire. I'm looking at this field right now. I'd say Shire, Barnes,
Pearl? Question mark.
See, that's expectations versus pressure. I don't think that's the same. I don't think that there's a ton of coaches where this applies to. Rodney Terry's is in his own bucket, and I'm not seeing a ton of coaches that apply.
Okay,
I really am not. I'm looking at it. I'm just not seeing a lot that fit that bill of needing to get something done. So yeah, I mean, if you want to go Pearl, Auburn was really, really good. Can you live up to it? The SEC collectively has pressure. 14 teams. Can you get half that into the Sweet 16? How many teams are going to make it to next week? That'll be interesting.
Well, some of those teams will have to potentially play each other in the round of 32, right? Like, you could have
correct.
Vanderbilt, Alabama.
Yes, this got said. Hold on. This got messaged to me last night. Let me see if I got this here so I don't have to try and do the math in real time in the bracket. Hold on one second. One of our researchers sent this to me. Okay, 3 potential chances for SEC teams to play each other in the second round. They are Florida versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 9, by the way, whatever. But like, I was talking to a coach on the drive home last night, and they were making the point about Oklahoma getting a 9, where Michigan was slotted. They went through like 5 different. They're like, the committee didn't care about anything on Saturday or Sunday, and the coach was just saying, just tell us the truth. Don't talk around it. Just let us know. Just let us know what is going on.
That the bracket is built out by like 85, 90% by Friday night.
Yeah. Like, and the coach was making actually some very good points. And the examples that he gave me were all entirely valid. Now, some of them go against it. Like, I do think St. John's needed to win the Big East tournament to get on the 2 line. That's just that's my read on that situation. But regardless. Okay. So yeah, SEC rematch is second round. So the SEC has 14 teams. It can only send 11 to the Sweet 16 at most. It won't send 11. Florida versus Oklahoma. Bama, Vandy, 2-10 in the East, and then Kentucky, Texas is possible if Texas beats Xavier, and then gets into a match with Kentucky after that. So those are the only SEC early matches. Overall, committee did a good job making sure to minimize and limit the amount of intra-conference battles that we would have there. Oh, by the way, everyone knows the SEC got 14 in. Big Ten got 8. That was number 2, and the Big 12 was 3rd with 7 teams in the field.
Midwest region, top seed Houston. You think they're the best team in America?
I think they are as good as anyone in America. Yes, they. I love this team, and I love that they've got a path here. They can get past Gonzaga. That's not going to be easy. You give me Houston against Clemson, McNeese, Purdue, or High Point. I don't care about the team. I think Houston wins that for sure. And then bottom half of the bracket, your 3 seed is Kentucky, which has been capable of beating some good teams, but
they're also borderline fraud. Like
interesting. By the way, Mark Pope also never won a tournament game, just like Todd Golden.
Going back to BYU, yeah.
So Illinois and Kentucky are the 2 teams that I've said for weeks now they could do anything in this tournament, and they just so happen they might play each other in the second round there. But the teams at the bottom, like Tennessee is the 2 in Houston's region in the Midwest. Tennessee does what Houston does, but not as well. So yeah, I like what this sets up here. You've got Cougars versus Cougars in the 116 with Houston and SIUE, SUI. You've got Bulldogs versus Bulldogs in Gonzaga and Georgia. I'll see Clemson and McNeese in person. That's Providence. That is Thursday. The first game on Thursday is Purdue and High Point, 12:40. True TV. Going True TV, Purdue, High Point, Clemson, McNeese. I hate to see it. And then bottom
shout
half,
out to High Point, by the way. Just shout out to High Point. Good on them.
They got a chance there. I have Purdue right now in that game, but you actually dig into that matchup and you've got a chance. Let me try and guess that line. You got that line in front of you? Purdue.
I got all the lines. All
right, I'll say Purdue is a 5.5 point favorite over High Point.
You can get High Point right now catching 8 against the Boilermakers. Line opened at 9. Opened at 9. It's been hammered down a little bit. Folks are loading up on the Panthers of HPU.
Fair enough. Every tournament practically, I think there's only been one tournament with the first 4 since 2011 that this wasn't the case. There's a team that gets to the second round. So your options are San Diego State, Carolina, Xavier, or Texas. I think Xavier is going to be that team. I think Xavier is going to beat Texas, and I think Xavier is going to beat Illinois. Sean Miller's a really good coach, and yeah, the Xavier Texas game, you've got Ryan Conwell and Trey Johnson, and those 2. Conwell had 38 in the Big East tournament. Johnson set the freshman record earlier this season for most points in a game by a Longhorn. That's going to be an awesome game. That game, by the way, if you're curious, that is the Wednesday late tip. Carolina San Diego State is your Tuesday True TV game for the high majors, and then UCLA Utah State. That matchup actually doesn't do anything for me. I would have loved to have seen those 2 teams playing other teams. I'm not that inspired by that game. That is a late tip TNT Thursday night. Tennessee Wofford also is a 2:15. Every year, I know I say this because I believe it. We look at this bracket, and there's just a few matchups that are of 215 and 314 variety. We just scroll past, and often those games do wind up just being blowouts. But there's almost always a game where, whether you're reading on websites, listening on podcasts, watching on TV, there's a matchup that nobody talks about in depth whatsoever. And then we get to that game, and suddenly it's one possession with 5 minutes to go, and that's the fun of the tournament. I can't wait to find out which one of these games that will be the case on. Like a perfect example is Wisconsin-Montana as a 314 in the East. That game's going to be in Denver. No one's talking about that game, and nor should you. And maybe Wisconsin will win this by 24 points, but that's the exact kind of matchup where you're like, hold on. I got Wisconsin-Montana as my third option right now. We got to put this on the big screen. 4 minutes to go, 3-point game. Can the Grizz do it? It's the best. Cannot wait for Thursday. What are your thoughts on the Midwest?
Kentucky's the 3 seed, okay?
You call
They don't have a point guard.
Well, Lamont Butler is back. So he is back, and shoulder is apparently getting better and all that stuff. So
okay, fine.
Kentucky's
the 3 seed. They have their point guard back. Do we have faith that Kentucky can go deep in this tournament? No, I do not. No, I don't. I would feel really good about things if I was Kelvin Sampson in Houston or a fan of the Cougars to get to a Final Four, given what the other high seeds are in that region. Tennessee, I know they made your list, okay? They made your list, and you think they are national champ, or you thought at the time when I asked you for that list that they were national championship good. Trust issues. Good team, good pieces. Love Zakai Ziegler. Love that guy, okay? Shout out to the other short kings out there. Zakai Ziegler is elite, but these guys go on 6-7 minute scoring droughts sometimes, and you look up and you're like, oh, what do you know? Tennessee's up by 3 with 4 minutes to play against Wofford, and you're just, I don't trust them. So we'll see, but I love Houston in this spot, and I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be tap dancing through the Midwest region. Last but not least, the West. You said this is the most interesting region. Love St. John's. Love what they did all throughout the year. Love what they did at the Garden. Like, the vibes, right? Immaculate. I don't love that they got shipped out west. Like, if I was I know they're in Providence for the first 2 games, but if you're a Johnny's fan and you're like, man, I want to make it to a regional final because I think my team's going to be there. Well, you look up and you realize you got to fly out to San Francisco for that. That sucks. Like, that's a bummer. Yeah. Texas Tech at the 3, dangerous team. I don't know how many folks nationally have locked in on Texas Tech games this year. They lost to Arizona by 2 in the Big 12 tournament. Like, they're a good team, man. They're a good team. We know this because we talked to their coach earlier this year. And then your Maryland Terrapins, Crab 5.
Flying to Seattle for the first week.
That's tough, dude. That's tough.
Let's go through this real quick here.
Okay. By the way, I looked at the tickets. Seattle is the most expensive get-in price.
Is that a fact? Why is that, Hartzell?
I don't know. Probably because Seattle is one of the most expensive cities in America.
For basketball?
Climate Pledge Arena, right? That's what they call it?
Yeah, Climate Pledge Arena.
The get-in price as of Monday morning for Colorado State Memphis, which is the early game at Climate Pledge Arena, $372. Now, that gets you 4 games.
Yeah.
But I don't love that, okay? No, I'm good. I'm just going to stay at home and watch it on my 85-inch high-definition television along with everything else. Pass. It's a pass for your boy.
Yeah, I gotcha. Some geography and flying notes from me. I'm looking through this right now and what people got. Okay.
You a million miler, Norlander?
No chance.
No chance. Okay.
Okay. On the left side of the bracket, here are the geographic stuff that's inconsistent. You've got Louisville as an 8 getting to play in Lexington. You should not allow that. They're not an 8, and they shouldn't. The number 1 overall seed shouldn't be getting Louisville. You've got Michigan as the 5, having a longer flight, misseeded, playing the best mid-major team in the field, and that team, UC San Diego, doesn't have to travel as far to Denver. You've got Colorado State as a 12 going to Seattle, having a much shorter trip than Memphis the 5.
Real quick. Guess the line. Colorado State, Memphis.
I'll say Colorado State -2.5.
The 12 seed Rams are favored by 2.5 over the 5
on
seed
the money.
Memphis Tigers. Nailed it.
Give it to me. You've got Maryland having as a 4 seed having to fly across the country to play in Seattle. Now, at a certain point, you have a West region. You have to fill this out. So
Sure,
the other,
sure.
and some of this is the SEC, like A&M. They're not as far, but they're going to Denver instead. They wanted to benefit them. You've got Arizona as a 4, and it's going to Seattle. They're already taken care of in that regard. You've got Purdue as a 4, and it's going to Providence. At a certain point, you get boxed in. I'm just pointing all these out. Maryland's got to fly across the country as a 4 seed. And then it's got to play Grand Canyon, which has a flight that will take 1/3 as long to get there. Loping into the field like an antelope out of control. Drake plays Missouri and Wichita, and that's not such a far drive for Drake. That's a great game.
I think Missouri's right for the picking, by the way.
I think a lot of people think that.
They're favored by 6.5.
That's
if you're
the
into that
left
sort of
side.
thing.
On the right side, there are only 1 or 2, I think. I'm looking at this right now. None of those are bad. That's okay. Although Wisconsin's got to go to Denver. Hold on, I'm getting a call, but I'm not going to take it.
Is it Nate Oates?
It is not.
Is it a coach who's playing in the NCAA tournament?
It is not. It is not a coach in the NCAA tournament. Okay. Let's see. Montana goes to Denver, and Wisconsin's going there to play him. That's not egregious, but I'm just pointing that out here. Vandy gets to go to Cleveland, and St. Mary's is the 7. That's not egregious, but still notable. Bob Morris is the 15 playing Alabama and Cleveland, and I'm going to look this up right now. I'm going to say Bobby Morris's campus to Cleveland. I'm going to guess that's a 2-hour drive. I'm going to look at it right now. I'm going to do this. This is the kind of podcasting you're not going to get anywhere else. Did I say it was good? No, but I'm telling you, you're not getting
this. Come on, are you kidding me?
Robert Morris by car is 1 hour and 58 minutes away. No one's talking about this. This is the only show where you're getting this. Hour 58 from Moon Township, PA, up to the lake in Cleveland. So,
hour 58, but if you're Norlander, probably about 2:15. I know you like to hang out in the right lane.
No chance.
Take it
hour
easy.
58 means I'm getting there in 1 hour 52. That's how we're doing. And then
by the way, shout out to Andy Toole. We interviewed 2 head basketball coaches this year.
Yep.
Both of them made the dance.
CSN bump is real. And then anything else? Yeah, Illinois is a 6 and gets to play in Milwaukee against and Kentucky travels, whatever, but they're a 6. Like that seems a little close to me, or at least close for me overall. And I think that's it. So they're just a few that were inconsistent. Not a ton, but enough where I'm kind of tilting my head, being like, because you want to give the benefit to the better seeds geographically in the first round if you can.
When Kentucky beat Oklahoma at 1 a.m. Eastern time, shortly after 1 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday morning in the quarterfinal round of the SEC championship, 2 things. 1, it was Kentucky's first win in Nashville in an SEC tournament since 2019.
That's a good
and also, where we were sitting, mid-court, second row, adjacent to Schulman and Billis, who were all for the night crew. It was Kentucky Carl and Jimmy Dykes. By the way, Schulman, like low-key, like big dude. Didn't realize that.
How big?
I mean, Billis is tall. I'd say Schulman's like 6'1", but broad-shouldered, like a guy who's probably in his hotel room doing like just sets of diamond cutters.
I mean, I'm aware, but I wanted you to cut the. I know Schulman well. He loves listening to the CBS pod, but I wanted you to
big dude
paint a picture for our listeners.
Low-key big. Anyway, 2 things. Kentucky wins in bizarro fashion after just yakking up the game late. They win it at the buzzer. So they open their account in Nashville for the first time in 6 years. Good on them. But the number 2 thing I was going to say is, Norlander, you ever seen those highlights of like SEC baseball games where like somebody hits a home run and then the outfield, everybody just throws their drink up in the? Have you seen those before? Or like when Tiger Woods, like at the Waste Management Open, and everybody's just throwing beer.
Oh, yeah.
What if I told you, cue the 30 for 30 music, what if I told you that a large cup of beer made it from the stands to our broadcast position. I mean, just this thing is
Really?
flying through, just boo, like a missile, just right over the top of everybody. Quite a scene. Quite a scene at Bridgestone Arena. I think Kentucky is ripe for the picking, man. There's a couple of SEC teams, not because I saw them, but like just because of the quantity. There's 14 of them, for God's sakes. Kentucky, A&M, who else? Missouri, Vanderbilt. Like, you made the field, rightfully so, but like, I buyer beware. That's all I'm saying. Buyer beware. I love Florida. Okay, I love Florida. They have a very tough path to get to San Antonio. It's a tough path. So a St. John's Florida matchup, if the seeding's held up, would be fascinating. Like Johnny's defense versus all that firepower for the Gators. That'd be a lot of fun. But I mean, Florida they're just clicking, dude. They're just absolutely dialed. If they close the regular season winning 9 of 10, then you win 3 straight in Nashville. Like, you knocked off 2 number 2 seeds in Alabama and Tennessee to get there. Like, I don't know, man. Todd Golden's got a monster. They need to show up when it matters most. And that's what we love about this week, right? You have a rough shooting night, you go 3 of 25 from 3-point land, you're going home. Like, you're cooked. You're toast, man. So now we just got to try to find what that's going to look like. Like, we have to predict it, and that's the beauty of this, because we have no idea. We have no idea whatsoever.
Yeah, that's all good stuff there. We don't have to go too deep on this, but we didn't really dig too much on your thoughts on Carolina getting in the field. This is a really big point of contention. Obviously, it was last night, and then you get to about Monday afternoon, and this stuff hits the rear view.
I'm over it. I'm over it, frankly.
You're over it. All right, you're over it.
They're
in the field.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. I will say the optics are bad. Like, public perception, public trust in the system. Like, if you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I like what the NCAA tournament does, because I feel like the transparency and how you are filling out the field is significantly, not a little bit, but significantly greater than what we get with the college football playoff. I wish the college football playoff was like, yeah, we have a metric. Instead of wins above bubble, it's this. Or, yeah, we have a metric. Instead of Bart Torvik, it's this. College football playoff, man, it's a bunch of people that get into a room, and then they lock the doors, and they turn off the cameras, and it's, hope you like what we came up with. College basketball, there is more transparency, a lot more. But, yeah, the North Carolina thing, as Norlander yawns on camera.
Take it easy. What do you want from me? I'm on 4 hours of sleep like 5 days in a row.
What do I want from you, Norlander? I want you to be great. I want you to be elite.
I'm being
Is
great.
That too much to ask?
I'm being great right now. I squeezed in one quick yawn. The brain's got to reboot.
By the way, speaking of great, I'm going to brag for a moment here.
Okay.
I know you didn't listen to the SEC radio network over the weekend, and that's fine. You've got a lot going on. But I had the pleasure of working alongside Jason Benetti for the first time in my career.
Elite. Wait, he did radio play-by-play?
Jason Benetti called 4 games for us in Nashville. He did the semifinals on Saturday. He did the Friday night quarterfinal, Florida-Missouri, which was a track meet, and then he did the championship game. Now, we don't need to get into the weeds on, like, how did Hartzell book Benetti for Nashville? We can just know that your boy has got some, he's got some gifts, okay?
That's a pretty big booking right there.
Jason Benetti alongside Tony Delk, who obviously won a national championship at Kentucky and is one of Norlander's favorite college basketball players of all time. So you're used to listening to Benetti on television, and he is the number 2 for Fox Sports behind, Gus Johnson. Thank you. Sorry. It's been a long week. A lot of names.
There's a new sheriff on CSN.
Jason Benetti on radio, and he does Westwood. He's doing the Raleigh pod, so he's going to do the 6 games in Raleigh coming up. I think is that Thursday, Saturday. I think
Raleigh is Friday, Sunday.
Friday, Sunday.
Flag.
Okay, very good.
By the way, I think Flag's playing on Friday. But go ahead.
Benetti on radio is. It's like those videos that you see where the baby can't hear, and then they put the piece in his or her ear and he gets to hear his mom's voice for the first time. You know those videos I'm talking about? Where all of a sudden they stop crying, their eyes open up, and they're like, for the first time in my life, I have heard my parents' voice. That was Benetti on radio. It was incredible. This man will call a Super Bowl in the not too distant future. He is
awesome,
incredible on radio, and it was fantastic. So we had the basketball, and then we had the broadcast, and when those two things met, in terms of the quality of the basketball and the quality of the broadcast, probably one of, in my professional life, Norlander, probably one of the highlights for sure over the weekend, because that dude has got the goods. And I know you know that, but he's going to be doing radio for Westwood One.
He should be the number one for Fox now.
I give it time, okay?
And he's ascended. That's the situation there. I'd love to have him eventually on CBS's actual coverage. But having said that, the CBS Turner combo continues to be just an insanely deep bullpen, whether it's play-by-play analysts or sideline stuff. Here are your teams, by the way. You know what I'm going to do right now? If you're listening, I'm giving you the schedule in order, Thursday, Friday, okay? Here it is. Brian Anderson, Jim Jackson, Allie LaForce. That's coming out of Lexington. Creighton, Louisville. That's your first game on Thursday. Your second game will be on True TV, 12:40. High Point, Purdue. That's Andrew Catalan, Steve Lapis, Evan Washburn. Norlander fact, my wife's aunt, which is her mother's sister, you follow?
Okay.
Is married to another man. The man is divorced. That man's previous wife... Well, then that man is Evan Washburn's father. So I have like this strange, unexpected familial connection to Evan Washburn.
Great hair on that man. Evan.
Tremendous
Great.
hair.
Yeah.
He's on sideline. I'm going to see him in Providence. In fact, I should probably have my wife text her aunt and let him know. And we'll give him the heads up on that. 1:30, you've got Brad Nessler, Brendan Haywood, Dana Jacobson from Denver, Montana versus Wisconsin on TNT Thursday. 2 Eastern is the last of the four sites in that window. That is SIUE versus Houston and Wichita. That is Tom McCarthy, underrated, Deb Antonelli, Steve Smith, and AJ Ross. Those four teams in that same order have it on Thursday afternoon into the dinner hour. St. Francis Bama State versus Auburn with Anderson, Jackson, and LaForce. You've got Providence with McNeese versus Clemson. I'll be there. You've got VCU, BYU on TNT in Denver at 4:05, and then around 4:35, you've got Georgia Gonzaga from Wichita. You've actually got I like that you've got the 8-9 starting that afternoon window and closing that afternoon window. I would say, looking at those two, give me the second one over the first one. Thursday night, Wofford, Tennessee from Lexington, 6:50. 7:10 is Arkansas, Kansas from Providence. That's a CBS game with Catalan and crew. 7:25 is Brad Nessler, Brendan Haywood, Dana Jacobson with Yale A&M in Denver. And then 7:35 on True TV is Tom McCarthy with Drake and Missouri. That might be the best window of all. I always like to rank the windows. I haven't gotten there yet, but that one might be the best of the 8. Thursday night late. I love me some late ball. Utah State, UCLA from Lexington on TNT starts at around 9:25. 9:45 is going to be Omaha versus St. John's and Providence. Rick Pitino and the Johnnies got to wait late. 10 Eastern is UC San Diego and Michigan on TBS from Denver. And then Texas Tech and UNCW has the last tip of the night on Thursday at around 10:10, at least expected, from Wichita. For Friday, the first game of Friday is Baylor, Mississippi State, CBS. That is your Iron Eagle, Bill Raftery, Grant Hill, Tracy Wolfson team from Raleigh on CBS. The next game on Friday will be Bobby Moe against Bama in Cleveland on True TV. Spiro Ditas, Jim Spinarkle, and John Rothstein doing sideline there. 1:30 is TNT, Milwaukee, Iowa State, and Lipscomb with Kevin Harlan, Dan Bonner, Stan Van Gundy, Lauren Shahadi. 2 Eastern is TBS, Seattle, Lisa Byington, Robbie Hummel, who does just amazing work, Jalen Rose, and my guy, Andy Katz. I'm just seeing this now. I talked with Katz like 2 weeks ago. I was like, why wouldn't they send you to Providence? And he goes, I don't know, but I feel like they're going to send me to Seattle. Lo and behold, Katz was right. They're sending him all the way across the country. The dude lives in Rhode Island, and they're sending this guy to Seattle. 2:50 Friday, you've got Duke versus Mount St. Mary's American. Real quick, that surprised you? Duke, no matter the opponent, not in the night slot, they're getting the 2:50 tip on Friday, Hartzell.
It's fine. It's not going to be a competitive game. Let's move on.
People want to see Cooper Flag, though. I do think he'll play in that game. 3:15 True TV out of Cleveland, Vandy St. Mary's. 4:05 Milwaukee, UNC San Diego State winner against Ole Miss. And then the last tip of the afternoon on Friday is Grand Canyon, Maryland, out of Seattle on TBS. The night slate, this is the first round, of course, still. We'll get going on TNT out of Raleigh with Norfolk State and Florida. That's kind of snuck in there at 6:50 because it's expected to be a blowout, so you might be able to have time to sneak a dinner in before you got to get going on CBS. 7:10 Kentucky
I'm not
versus
sneaking
Troy.
anything in because I'm not leaving the television set.
That's
Unbelievable.
True. I know.
God
The way they
almighty.
stagger these is awesome because we actually used to get, about 45 minutes of no games, and now that doesn't happen anymore. Like now you will from 12:15 until and then in the afternoon until 12:15 at night. It's just one game after another. It's sports nirvana. Keep it going here. Troy, Kentucky, 7:10 on Friday. 7:25 is New Mexico Marquette out of Cleveland on TBS. True TV is going to have the Arizona Akron game from Seattle, and then your last 4-pack on Friday night will be Oklahoma UConn from Raleigh at 9:25. 9:45 is going to have Texas Xavier winner against Illinois out of Milwaukee. 10 Eastern is going to have Michigan State Bryant. 10:10 True TV. That Michigan State Bryant's TBS. True TV has Liberty and Oregon. So Liberty and Oregon are supposed to close down the bar of the first round on Friday. That actually, looking at that, Hartzell, the programming people at CBS do a really good job. This actually feels like a pretty balanced 8 different TV windows. I'd have to look hard and see which one is my favorite. But that's what we have here. My favorite.
Go ahead. I'm going to let you cook. Go ahead. You're on a roll. Go ahead.
My 5 favorite first-round matchups in no order. Drake, Missouri, Colorado State, Memphis, Michigan, UC, San Diego, Louisville, Creighton. Those are all on the left side. And then I think Xavier, Illinois would be 5, but we don't have a guarantee of that, so I'm not going to include that. I would say my 5th favorite game or matchup. Why not? Kansas, Arkansas. Everything on the left. On the left side of the bracket. It's got my top 5. Yeah.
Gross. Thursday day session greater than Thursday night session. Friday night session greater than Friday day session.
Okay.
As far as programming is concerned.
What is your favorite 1, 2, 3 games on the board?
I mean, you're really putting my feet to the fire here. I'll give you a little bit of variance here. I like Gonzaga, Georgia. I mean, I think that's going to be fun. Gonzaga's favored. Georgia's good. I think that'll be a fun game. In terms of like Michigan, UC, San Diego, that game's supposed to tip at 10 o'clock Eastern, man. Your boy's got to pace himself, okay? It's going to be Thursday night. Like, I'm going to be, I mean, I imbibe. I don't get, like, blasted or anything, but, like, I mean, we'll have a little red wine. Like, we'll be flowing a little bit at the Hartzell household for sure. Put the wife and kids to bed, honey. We got Wolverines Tritons tipping in 20 minutes. Colorado State, Memphis will be fun. I know you're all in on the Crab 5, but like the more I watch and read about Grand Canyon, dude, I would hate for you to have to owe me a vinyl come Friday afternoon. I would hate that if your Crab 5 took an L from the Lopes, and at around 7 o'clock Eastern time, I'm texting you being like, I don't have a big boat vinyl. I wasn't going to go buy one, but if you want to send me one just to complete the collection, I wouldn't hate it. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Norlander. First number 1 seed to lose in the NCAA tournament will be?
According to my bracket, I've got Florida going down first.
Oh, I hate that. To who?
Maryland.
Please don't say UConn. Okay.
Maryland.
All right.
That's my first 1 seed I got going down. Yep.
By the way, a piece of confetti just flew off of my computer from Nashville. It was like stuck in a corner. It just floated out. By the way, a recap for those of you hardcore listeners out there: the bets between Norlander and I. If Maryland makes the Final Four, Norlander gets crab meat. There are places that ship this properly and with the respect and care that it deserves. It'll probably show up in, like some dry ice or some liquid nitrogen or something. But Norlander gets crab meat. He's a pescatarian. So if Maryland makes the Final Four out of the rough and tumble West region, Norlander gets crab meat. However, should one of these 4 schools lose, and boy, I really like my chances on one of them. Okay. Maryland, Michigan, Tennessee, or
Done.
the clones of Iowa State. If one
I'm
of those
toast.
4 teams lose in the first round, your boy here gets a vinyl.
Yeah, they screwed over Michigan. I'm toast.
And the lines here are awfully close in some of these games. I mean, Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite. Iowa State's banged up. They're hurt. The clones. So we'll see. We'll see. But I like my chances here. I think things are looking up for your boy. Iowa State's a 14-point favorite over Lipscomb. Favored by 2 tutties.
Yeah.
So don't slip up. All right. Before we let you go, what does this week look like for you? I know you're just out here just generating content nonstop. So what's it look like?
All right. I am going into New York City tonight to be on CBS Sports Network for, I think, a 2-hour bracket. Everything, picking games, fun stuff, left and right, just you name it. It's actually a really enjoyable show. So I've got that Monday. I've also got a couple of shows on CBS Sports Network for the podcast as well. There's also a huge preview show we're going to do for the pod. I will have right now. I have a ranking of the 1 to 68 for the field that I actually need to adjust for Iowa State's injury, and I realized this like late last night. I haven't done it yet. I have Iowa State too high. I got to bump them down like 4 or 5 spots now that Keyshawn Gilbert's not going to play in this tournament. You can go read that. I always publish. I think we're going to run it Wednesday. A stats, facts, trends, figures to know. It's a master. Just like if you love just overthinking everything about your bracket, this is going to be for you. That'll publish on Wednesday. I am driving to Providence Thursday morning. So I will get up and leave probably at around, it takes about 2 hours to get there. I'll probably head out around like 8:15 and park and get on in there, spend the entire day at the Dunk, stay overnight, driving back home Friday, watch games, do HQ from here. But I also want to be able to, like, it's close enough. I want to like watch a couple tournament games with my kids. So I'm going to do that on Friday. I will drive back to Providence on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I will be in studio for CBS Sports HQ. I don't know when we're doing our next show. Per usual, I don't know when it's worth it.
That's fine. I'm flexible. By the way, parenting advice here. Do your kids fill out separate brackets or do you do one?
Separate brackets. One of them this morning. He got like 6 games in. I left it on the table for him. Didn't even know it just came down, and on the breakfast table there it was. Just plain bracket with a pencil. He got to work, but he bailed on it pretty quick here. They'll do separate.
A lot of work, man. It's like a lot of. They get to work on their handwriting, the spacing. Like they've got to be really. I think it's great. I had my kids fill out an SEC tournament bracket. They both picked the Gators to get it done. Yep. So vibes are high. Okay, people are feeling pretty good in this household. But what they don't realize, they got to fill out 67 games coming up here in a bit. That's a lot. So yep. It's a good activity. Keep them occupied for like hopefully 2 or 3 hours. Me and their mom can go out to dinner. All right, folks, thank you for listening to the show. Obviously, we got games coming, man. Life is good. Norlander, thank you for hopping on. I know it's a busy week for you. We'll talk to you soon. TBD.
We'll make it happen when we can make it happen. All right.
That.
We appreciate everyone listening. Be sure to leave nice reviews. And for anyone that listens to the show that also took in that our Selection Sunday coverage on CBS Sports HQ, appreciate that. I'm really proud of the show that we put on. I think it's as interesting and informative and entertaining as any that you'll find. So thank you so much.
Okay. Norlander doing plugs for his CBS show on our show. I love that very much.
This has been a feature of this podcast from the start. What do you want?
We'll talk to you guys later. Enjoy the games.